Hi, it's great to have you here for today's Creating Positive Change in Difficult Times webinar. I'm Debbie Clement-Large from whyfollowtheherd.com. Now, as everybody joins, I'll just let you know that you're in listen-only mode, but please feel free to put any questions in the chat box anytime throughout the webinar, and I'll do my best to answer them. So before we start, we'll just say a quick hello to those joining us from all over the world. If you let me know where you're from, it would be great to see you. But also, you've caught me in the middle of a really bad hay fever bit. Started about half an hour ago. I'm a bit bunged, so please excuse me if I don't talk brilliantly. That's what it is. So, horrible hay fever. Never mind. So anyway, it's really exciting that have so many people here wanting to understand our reactions to difficult situations and how we can go about finding ways to deal with difficult times, and that we all experience them sometimes in our life, don't we? And to help me through this creative journey and to help us get it through the situation, it's really good to understand where we're going. And I've got some slides here to help me to show you that, so I'll just put them up now. Let me just find them. There we go. Okay, so that's it. That's what we're talking about today. And as I said, my name is Debbie Clement-Large. I'm from whyfollowtheherd.com. So there's me again. So I like to make use of creative thinking and the power of story to infect and empower transformational change. A big thing to say. It is all about whether we think we can or think we can't. Either way, we're right. And creative thinking is so important. It's not about learning to paint or writing a book. It's about finding different ways to look at things, being resilient and flexible and having an open mind and being able to use the creativity that we're born with. So, we're going through a lot of change at the moment, and change isn't easy. It can be really difficult for a lot of people. And sometimes, change can leave us scratching our heads and wondering why us? Why is it happening to me? And it's hard to come to terms with something. Sometimes it's hard to understand the change. Why is it happening? Why is this being imposed on me? Because change very often is imposed. That's when we're not comfortable with it, when it's imposed on us. And sometimes that can leave us feeling really scared. What do we do? How do we react to it? What does this change mean for us? And it can be difficult sometimes we just want to hide from it. We don't want to speak about it. We don't want to hear about it. We just want to, it's difficult to know how to deal with it because we have such a big range of emotions when we're dealing with change. And from that, the change can make us feel very anxious, or it can manifest in different types of ways. And that's, hard. We can feel bereaved. We can feel a sense of loss. We can feel anger or rage. We can be upset and crying and tearful. And that's hard. We have such a range of emotions that we can experience. And just when we think it's too late to make a difference, we can actually find that there is support there available for us. We're not always on our own having to deal with this, and that's great. And when we have a bit of support in our life, it can take us from feeling like we're on a roller coaster of emotions towards achieving a slightly more calmer and a more in control feeling. And big change doesn't need to feel like we're at the end of the road. Sometimes change, even when it's imposed by somebody else, can put us at the start of a new journey. It can help fire us up with the inspiration, with new ideas. Sometimes it's just that push that we've needed to do something that maybe we've dreamt or thought about in the past, but put off, or thought that maybe it wasn't for us. There's all sorts of things that we can do, and why change is actually quite good for us at times. So I would just say, take the courage, be strong, be ready to face your fears head on, and always think there's always something better around the corner. So how can we do this? Well, today we're going to be having a look at dealing with the initial emotion. We're going to be understanding how our emotions change, and we're going to look at channeling our emotions towards making positive action. So let's have a look then. Okay, dealing with the initial emotion. Well, it can be a really strong, swirling emotion, and it's really difficult for us to know how to deal with this at times. And we can react in lots of ways. Like I said just now, we can feel a sense of loss, we can be angry, we can be fearful, upset, we can be really frustrated with what's going on, but it can also leave us with a sense of urgency. And if we're, knee-jerking into action doesn't usually serve our purpose. And when we feel this urgent need to do something, it's a really good indicator that what we actually need to do is to slow down and take a break. And I know this is easier to do than to say sometimes, but know that every emotion you experience is a direct result of a thought, not the world around you. So you are creating your response. So when you feel angry, sad, distressed, shocked, your thinking is likely to be, it's not productive, is it? Whichever thought you engage in is likely to lead you to, well, a place you don't want to go. And that's not a good place to be in. And that can make us feel fearful. But knowing all this doesn't necessarily take away the fear. See, the thing is, you can never get rid of fear. That's a natural response for us. And as they say, everything you want is on the other side of fear. So we need to ride the wave of fear and upset that we may be feeling in order to find more clarity on our way forward. And one way of doing that is help, we might need to help clear our emotions, because when something big has just happened, we don't always know how to deal with it. So sometimes just grabbing a pen and paper and flow writing for 5 to 10 minutes, just dumping all your frustrations, your anger, your upset down onto a page, is a good way to actually physicalize your feelings. Now, some people like to be more public with their feelings and so put messages on social media like Facebook, but be wary. When you're in a state of heightened emotions, you can end up putting something out there that you may later regret. So just bear that in mind. And that's why flow writing is so effective, because it can channel your emotions. You can literally put down on a piece of paper whatever you think, and it doesn't need to go anywhere. You can burn it in a fire, you can shred it, rip it up. No one needs ever see it. And another thing that's really useful about it is our inner thoughts and words may give us an inner perspective on our journey, the journey of our emotions when we're experiencing change. And, we get to better understand ourselves. And there's different ways that we can look at change. So our response when negative things happen, we can either go to the left, which is react automatically and irrationally, which then reinforces our habitual ways of thinking that might be unhelpful to us and not beneficial to us, which then become even more convinced that our poor opinions of ourselves and our world are justified. So that's spiraling down. Or we could go down the right-hand side of that, which is take time to consider a response and think about new rational ways to respond that may be useful and beneficial to us. And then we realize that our negative opinions may be unjustified, not justified, and that the world holds more possibilities for us. And I've noticed a few spelling mistakes in there, so apologies for that. And so it's all about our belief systems that produces a reaction. And this is from Dr. Albert Ellis, and he believed that majority of long-standing emotional problems are almost always due to what he called irrational thinking. And one of the most common ways in which irrationality occurs, he said, was a tendency to draw extreme conclusions, especially negative ones, about events. Now, just as an example, if a man was considered to be an irrational thinker and he lost his job, to him, it's not just unfortunate, but it's awful. This is like the really worst thing that could happen. And because he's lost his job, he takes that personally, and he believes he's worthless because he was fired, and that he'll never find another job. But that's not necessarily the case at all. So just to understand how our responses and our emotions, we could have a look at the journey that we go through. Now, as you can see, there's we have an up and down emotional journey, rather like a bit of a roller coaster ride. And it's perfectly normal to experience these sorts of emotions. And you don't need to try to suppress them in any way. They are natural. And the more we suppress them, the more they lay dormant, and the more likely they're to come up later on, or you'll have unresolved issues. So it's best to go with them, experience them. Okay. So the first point in that diagram is looking at denial. Now, people faced with such potentially catastrophic change would often not be able to accept that communication. It's really difficult to be able to take that on. So they deny it. They don't even want to take it in, and they become emotionally numb and have just a massive sense of disbelief about what's happening. Now, some people would argue that that's the body's way of allowing people to prepare themselves for what's to follow. And we might not want to accept the news and expose ourselves to the heartache that news could bring to us. So it's almost like the first point of blocking and, trying to look after ourselves, having difficulty in preparing and accepting that knowledge. And the next stage we go through, point 2, is anger. So when people go past the initial stage and they start to acknowledge what's happening, they then move forward into being an anger phase. They ask questions like, why me? Why such a thing happened to me? And this anger and frustration can be focused externally. But sometimes we can focus this internally towards ourselves. And, this stage is still a continuation of not wanting to accept the change and of wanting to do something, anything other than fully believe in that change. So anger in this instance is a way of displacing our real feelings about the situation. Now, once we go past this stage, we go into bargaining. And this is where we've exhausted ourselves by attacking others or attacking a situation. And people may find that they still want to wrestle back some of the control of the situation. This is still a deflection of the true gravity of what's happening. So they might be bargaining, they might be verging on panic still. This is still a big reaction stage for, when you're going through something. So you could be desperately looking around for something, anything to remedy the situation, to try and make it different, to try and put it back to the way that you might want to see it. And if we can't bargain ourselves out of a situation, we can move into the depression cycle. And that happens when it becomes clear that no amount of bargaining is going to provide an escape from the situation. And the true momentousness of the situation really kicks in. And we can enter a depression at a stage which is like a mourning or a grieving or a loss of something. It can be quite a powerful emotion. And we may find that when we're going through this situation, that we feel, the result of all this is that we're going to lose everything we've ever had or that we've ever known. And we get to the stage when we're ready to give up on everything. And it can feel like a sense of pointlessness or sadness. This isn't a great feeling. And as we move through that depression stage and that feeling of pointlessness, we can start to move towards a stage of coming to terms with the situation. So we're starting to accept something. So although we don't want to start to accept the reality situation, although we start to accept it, it doesn't mean we're happy with the situation. So we're coming to terms with it. and coming to start to accept that this change is going to happen in our lives. But, you know, it doesn't mean to say that we're accepting and happy about it as such. So people feel more fully in touch with their feelings about what's happening. You know, they're more in touch with their hopes, their fears, and their anxieties and what all that means. So they started to come through the other side. And as we move out of the inward-looking acceptance stage, we can start receive ideas like maybe there are changes out there worth thinking about. You know, you can start to ponder on what the possibilities might be. And that's when you start breaking free from the roller coaster of your emotions and beginning to discover that although the world around you may have changed, you may start to discover things aren't as bad as you thought they might be. You know, perhaps there are opportunities you couldn't see when you were looking inwardly. And what's really interesting, there's a story, you've probably heard of Viktor Frankl. Well, in 1942, he and his wife and his brother and his parents were taken into a concentration camp. And he spent 3 years there. And, well, I can't imagine the horrors that he experienced and the losses. And 3 years later, he emerged as the only survivor of his family group that went in there. And in 1946, he wrote Man's Search for Meaning. And it was all about his experiences. And he said that humans have 2 psychological strengths that allow us to bear painful and possibly devastating situations and move forward. And these are the capacity for decision and the freedom of attitude. Now, Frankl stressed that we're not at the mercy of our environment or events because we dictate how we allow them to shape us. Even suffering, he said, can be seen differently depending on our interpretation of events. And a man who has nothing else in this world may still know bliss. And, you know, all the things that he went to, he just said we have the ability to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. And going through what he went through, he could easily have gone the very negative, very depressed, very down way, but he actually took that chance to and the opportunity to find a positive and to use his attitude to actually get him through and help him through that situation. So it's really important that we positively channel our emotions. So when we've been on a roller coaster emotional journey and we've been expressing our feelings externally or internally, we reach a stage where we need to channel those emotions positively. So if you're still going through that cycle a little bit, coming out, please don't be afraid of letting other people know that your emotions are running high and that you need time to make a decision. You know, so give yourself time to take a step back, take a break, you know, and just trying to look at something objectively and at arm's length will enable you to give yourself a wider range of options. And the first step in doing this is in the understanding of what is outside our span of control and what is within our span of control. Now, if it's within our control, what suitable and positive action can we take? You know, maybe we could join forces with someone who feels the same. You know, a collective can be stronger than working alone towards a common goal. If it's outside of our control, is there a way we can find of letting go of it? You know, we can only affect change where we can affect change. And sometimes things like physical activities, like going to the gym, or, you know, maybe just doing some meditation could help you to release that. You know, we can only change things within our control. And if we're still, after all that, in a state of feeling anxious or stressed, angry or frustrated, you know, we'll need to try and intentionally slow ourselves down. Maybe one option could be you could donate to an organisation or cause you really believe in, that you feel may have some more influence to deal with a situation you're unhappy with. Sometimes even doing something like paying an act of kindness to someone else can help us feel good about ourselves, can take us out of thinking about our situation towards somebody else. And we can also think creatively, use creative thinking to find a way that has a positive effect on our lives. It's important to think about the power of creative thinking. We can look at provoking new ideas with thought experiments. Develop a sense of wonder. Think about, instead of looking at the situation you've got, think about, well, I wonder what if? Or, you could think, well, that doesn't seem very logical. So I wonder what would happen if I did, or if I tried. I mean, these questions may seem deceptively simple, but they're a great starting point for, an infinite journey within your mind of ideas. And the art of this process is being relentlessly curious and not stopping at the first hurdle. Be prepared to kickstart your imagination with questions outside the normal rules. And there's a story about the author Robert Harris, and he had the idea for his novel Archangel after his young son suddenly asked about Stalin's son. Well, Stalin didn't have a son, said Harris. Yes, but what if he did, persisted the boy. And that launched Robert Harris on a thought experiment, which became a book, which became a bestseller. So when we have these thoughts, a really good idea is to make them visual. Make a visual roadmap of your ideas. A picture speaks 1,000 words. And when you draw this out, and it doesn't mean to say you have to be good at drawing at all, because stick men are particularly fabulous, and that's kind of what I do. But it shows you links where you never thought there were any. And it can highlight a bigger picture. I was coaching somebody the other day, and they thought they had a particular problem area relating to one part of a team they looked after. But when actually they sat and drew out the situation, they realized there were different other areas that had the same problem in different parts of their lives. So it was quite interesting. So it gave the bigger picture, and it helped to be able to decide what was the best course of action, or what other tools and techniques that person could then learn to be able to make better and wider connections and to resolve the issues. So the creative process is hardwired into everyone. I mean, it really forms part of our DNA. And creativity is a journey of discovery, just like life is. And if you don't think you're creative, think again, because it might just be that you've let your creative fires die down, because we're born creative. And what creative thinking is, it's the ability of creating something out of nothing. And when you think creatively, it helps to build resilience. It helps us to be calmer and more grounded. And in doing so, it allows for our better health and well-being. And it creates a world where we can generate ideas, and it helps us to stand out from the herd. So if you want to know more, I've got an offer. I've got a free ebook. I'll just put that on there for you. There we go. So as I said, story and creativity is hardwired into us, but we can lose it over time, with education. We start thinking our work is graded, A, B, and C. Competitions, there's a first, a second, and a third place. And then the problem is that we start working in a way where the intention is not to fail. So we stop being creative because all we want to do is please somebody else and not fail at what we're trying to do. And that sort of moves on into the workplace. Lots of businesses say they want to be creative, but actually they impose such strong rules and regulations, constricting ones within an organization, that actually stifle creativity. So if you want to harness the power of story in your personal and professional lives, then why not download my free ebook? For many years, I've interwoven the power of story and creativity into my personal and professional lives. I've done lots of different sides of creativity: acting, writing. I've had my own creative business. I'm also a chartered management accountant, qualified business analyst. done lots of, so I understand it from both perspectives, you know, from a very business corporate side down to, you know, very creative, free thinking side. But when you combine two things together like that, it's really helped me to think out of the box, to make great memorable connections with people, and to think of new ways and different situations and different things I can do to overcome challenging obstacles. And I've put all this stuff that I've learned from inspiring others to work and live more creatively into a new transformational academy. It's my creative academy. So let me show you this. Got another offer to put up for you. Okay, here we go. So my creative academy is like, well, it's no ordinary training. It's like a transformational journey. And you know, just like our lives, our creative journey is not linear. You know, the Creative Academy will provide you with access to monthly strategies, tools and techniques for applying creative thinking into your everyday life. It will keep your thinking and mind flexible and open, and it will transform you from holding back through fear into opening the doors of inspiration and opportunity. And I set this up, you know, the whole reason I set this up was because I was working corporately. Money was becoming really tight. I was working in the public sector as well, and things were just becoming one restructure after another, you know, more constricting, more controlling, bigger workloads. People were becoming very stressed. And, you know, there are better ways to become more resilient, to find different ways of doing things. And I just really wanted to be able to help people to think differently. You know, maybe that's something that's a little more natural for me because it's something I've always done. And I never let that go when I was growing up and when I've worked. And it's great to be able to find ways to build on ideas. You know, that resilience is so important, to be able to be resilient to change that's going on, external change. And, you know, when you can think and create new ideas and give yourself the space and the tools and techniques to be able to think like that, then you can really sort of stand out from other people. You know, you can stand out from the herd. And at the moment, just for a very limited time, I've got some money off each month for the first 3 months membership. When you use coupon code giraffes. So what do you get as a member? Well, you get a new video every month, which is like full of information, and you'll learn about transformational techniques for implementing creativity directly into your life. You'll get a new podcast, which is not anywhere else at all, and that will be on a new topic, and which hopefully will inspire you to think about how you can incorporate creativity into your life. And I'll also do some get some leading experts with me as well to be able to do that with me. You'll get a guided meditation, a visualization audio download that will help you to expand your intuition and make greater connections. And also it's really good for helping you feel calmer and more grounded as well. You'll get a monthly members only webinar. So this is a great way to be able to top up with even more strategies, to have some chat with like-minded people, which is great. I'll have some co-presenters on that as well. And you get special deals and bonus content. So one of my bonus contents at the moment that I'm doing is looking at putting together a small course content about looking about creative presentations. So that will include things understanding your audience, the best way to present information, getting your ego out of the way, all about, you know, listing information, you know, getting information out to them. So, you know, this is be really cool piece of extra bonus content, which I will be charging other people for outside of the membership academy. And this whole academy is a bit like having a personal creativity coach. You know, I'll be in your headphones, I'll be on your screen, and be giving you clear directions and practical actions so you can feel supported along your journey. And what you should find is that old patterns will fade away. You'll start finding and regaining your creativity and rediscovering it, because it's still there, it's just hidden. And this is great because it helps us to remain flexible, and it's great for overcoming obstacles and problems and thinking about how to deal with difficult situations. And we all get those sometimes, don't we, in our personal and our professional lives. So it really is a great way all round to help with our health, wealth and happiness. So, here's how you can get hold of me if you want to find out more. It's been really great having you as part of this journey today. So we're almost at the end. So if you want to hook up with me on Facebook, I'm on Why Follow the Herd. If you want to say hello on Twitter, it's at Why Follow Herd. And if you want to email me just for more information or to say hello or anything, then you can drop me an email at debbie@whyfollowtheherd.com. So it's been really, really great today having you as part of this journey and this really short webinar. It's got lots of information in there. Hopefully it's provided you some thoughts about why you might be feeling as you're feeling when you're going through a difficult situation, and hopefully that will help you deal with anything. And the good part is actually knowing that other people feel like that as well, that you're not alone. That's quite normal and quite natural, but actually get to the stage where you can direct it into a more positive frame for you. Try to look for there was always good in any situation. It's just about it being creative and exploring that for you and taking control where you can. So it's been really nice having the webinar with you today, and I'll redirect you now to have a check out my Creative Academy, and I look forward to seeing you on another webinar soon. Take care.